Hey, everyone. Happy Friday to you. We are talking about offboarding being the new onboarding, and I have my guy Corey with me. He's going to walk you through who he is because, like I say, for they can do it better than I can. So, Corey, my man, go ahead and share with everyone who you are and why this topic is important to you.
Yeah, you got it. So thanks for having me, Jevon. Hi, everybody. My name's Corey Sanford. I'm a human resources nerd, affectionately call myself that. My official title is Vice President of Culture and Talent for an awesome company called Guidant Financial. I've been in the HR space for almost 20 years. Last year, I published a #1 best-selling book on Amazon called HR, Are You Kidding Me? Surprisingly simple steps to unlock the power of people. And it's just packed with hints and tips about how we can just really bring out the best in ourselves and other people. And I believe offboarding is one of those places that's underutilized by HR professionals, by leaders, by companies. And I'm excited to jump in and tell you some things I've learned about offboarding that I think is a secret to success of organizations and why offboarding is the new onboarding.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I love the title of the book, and I like how you just conveyed it as I would read it. So I got to say that first and foremost. But before we dive in, anyone, if you're watching this or if you watch the replay, make sure you interact with us. Go ahead and drop your comments in the chat so we can respond and make sure that we're answering those questions or comments for you. We want to hear from you. Now we can dive in. So awesome. Offboarding being the new onboarding. Corey, go ahead and riff it, man. Tell us why you think that is.
Yeah, you bet. So onboarding gets a lot of attention, and it should. I like to say good onboarding is the best recruitment insurance. We spend a lot of money on recruiting, a lot of dollars out there, and so good onboarding is the best recruiting insurance. And in my experience, when the potential for the potential for emotions is high, I should say, forgive me. When the potential for emotions is high, like when somebody starts a new job, they might feel nervous, they might feel embarrassed, they might feel a little scared, uncertain. That the opportunity to make a big impact is equally high. So that's when we know people are going to have strong emotions, man, that's where we can really show up and make an impact. Well, the same is true when somebody's leaving an organization. Think about the strong feelings somebody might have when they're leaving an organization. They might feel a little sad. They might feel really excited. They might be a little embarrassed. They might be nervous. They might be unsure about what the next couple of weeks are going to look like if they've given a 2-week notice. And so I've just learned that, man, when there are moments where people might have strong emotions, we can step up and make a good impact. And I think onboarding and offboarding are two of those places because they're making big changes in their lives and big decisions. And us as leaders, HR professionals, companies, we can be there in those moments. And offboarding in particular, I think there's a couple of things. There's a lot of benefits to doing it well, and I'll share those in a moment. And I think that there's ways that we can do it well. So the first part, the reason that this can benefit employees and the organization and leaders is one, boomerang employees, right? When someone leaves the organization,
my consulting folks definitely know about that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. How do you come back? They might come back to the organization. I once had a really good friend. He told me, hey, I'm going to stay in the industry, go to another company. The grass looks greener over there. After a few months, I asked him, I said, hey, what's it like in the new organization? How's the grass? And forgive my language, he said, Corey, it's the same damn grass.
Absolutely. Wait, I thought you were going to say something worse than damn, Corey. Please forgive me.
Well, I've always laughed at that because he goes, I found myself missing these parts of this organization and it wasn't like I expected. And if we leave the door open for people to return to the organization, think about how easy onboarding now, that's why offboarding is the new onboarding, right? When people come back, the onboarding of a boomerang employee is amazing. It's easy and they can go back. So that's one benefit is boomerang employees.
Real quick, Corey, on this one. I want anyone who's experienced what Corey's talking about, the offboarding process. What did your offboarding process feel like for you? Which one can you recall if you've had multiple? And then another component I wanted to ask you about that is I noticed a lot of firms are starting to do like an alumni network as part of their offboarding. I don't know if that was one of your twos. I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder, but what are your thoughts on that experience?
Are you asking the audience, or are you asking?
Yeah, for you, like the alumni, like I mentioned, the consulting, like Deloitte's of the world, they have an alumni network. So, are you starting to see that in the wild a little bit more, or is that something that's like more one off?
100%, yeah. So in my book and here, I have sort of a framework. ABCDE is what I follow with an offboarding process, and I can go through each of those here in a moment. But E for me is engage. So once somebody's left the organization, shifting the mindset to having them be alumni of the organization and how they can be leveraged is really, really important. So as the HR leader in my organization, I have a monthly reminder every month to do certain things. And one of those is reach out to Guidant alumni, see how they're doing, check in on them, let them know, hey, this idea that you had or this project that you were working on, this is where we're at today. And we still appreciate all the work and effort that you put into that and wanted you to give you an update. And so I make it a point to interact and engage with them. And I get a lot of positive reactions for that. I stay in contact with people, and that actually transitions to a couple of other benefits of why having an offboarding can matter. And that is, boomerang employees, but also I found that alumni are more likely to leave like Glassdoor reviews rather than current team members, right? So if they're leaving the organization feeling good about they might give a more balanced perspective about the organization. That's a benefit. And
then you can say like, I've seen that the grass wasn't greener. Here's why I decided to come back.
Totally.
Right? So there's, you get that other perspective where it's like, it's not somebody who's been there for 30 plus years and they've never seen anything else, but now they have something to compare it to.
You got it. You got it. For sure.
Absolutely.
And then by engaging in that alumni, I've seen referrals. They've referred friends and family to come work. They've become clients of our business, and they've referred clients. And so it becomes this massive ecosystem of connection where we can continue to support each other. And my favorite one is I'm a big believer in our values and our principles. And in my experience, if you really want to see what a company values and what their values are, not just the words on the wall, how do they treat exiting employees?
Absolutely.
That's a
good one.
If you want to know a company's values, how do they treat exiting employees? Because in my experience, and I'll show a better way to do it, but in my experience, one of two things happens. One, we either completely ignore them, we're so mad at them, we're disappointed, we remove them from meetings, we remove them from projects, we stop giving them updates and including them, and we just leave them on an island until their resignation period is over. Or we ask them to do 3 jobs. Oh my gosh, you're leaving? Okay, so in the next 2 weeks, you need to wrap up all your projects. You need to hire your replacement. You need to document everything that you're doing.
That's familiar.
And we're asking way, way, way too much of people when they're leaving. And I feel both of those, neither of those are consistent with most values that I see companies share. So finding a more balanced approach to that is really, really important. And that's the B in my ABCDE. I'll hit those in order, but that's the B is balance. Balance how we approach that. Let's not ignore them, but let's also not overwhelm them. Find the right balance, and that is consistent with company values around excellence and connection and making sure that we're treating them right as they're leaving the organization.
So what is balance though? Because like an org, so I from the org and from the employee standpoint, it's kind of competing priorities, right? So the organization is like, oh man, we know you have a lot of institutional knowledge, you have a lot of technical knowledge. We also know that, hey, we didn't get enough time to spin up this other person, blah, blah, blah. So what do you recommend that balance look like for both parties to kind of have a win-win circumstance?
Really, really good question. The best companies I've seen do it have a really open conversation with that individual, right? Say somebody gives a 3-week notice period, or somebody gives 2 weeks. We say, okay, we appreciate you giving us a notice period at all, first of all, because there is a major trend right now where people are leaving organizations without any notice period. So we should be celebrating. We should be celebrating that they're giving us a notice period at all. Say, hey, we really appreciate you giving us a chance to work through this transition. Help me understand everything that you're working on, and let's map out the next couple of weeks and figure out where are the right places that you believe you can add value during this notice period. and how we can support you. What can we be doing to support you to exit well and be ready for your next adventure? And then let's prioritize those most important things. Okay, let's drop this off, or let's delay this, but let's have you document how you do this one process, or let's have you make an introduction to me to this person so I can carry on this relationship. Or let's have you just wrap, I know you've got 3 projects, let's just have you wrap up this one part of this project. And then you're sort of right sizing the scope with the individual up front so that you both have reasonable expectations about what to accomplish during that notice period.
Gotcha. No, I like that. And I feel like, a lot of people now, like at least when I was in the corporate space, a lot of people have started doing like what we call in the military an I Love Me book. So they've been documenting everything they've been doing, because when you prepare for a promotion, but also with that, they've been documenting like how they've done the things more often from what I'm seeing, simply because it helps them too. It helps them like figure out where they can shortcut and kind of improve and have efficiencies there. So I feel like organizations, if they really start preparing people and being proactive with that, like, hey, do you mind, since you're new, you're fresh, or since you've been doing this for a while, either situation, do you mind if you just start documenting what that looks like so we can kind of make sure it's working for you, and making sure that you see how we can support you to kind of improve it? I feel like that would be a win-win for everybody.
100%, right? And you're not waiting for this moment of crisis or this, leaving. Now we have to go.
Oh my God, we're going to lose you. We don't have anything you have in your mind.
Yeah, that's right. If that's really important to the organization, that should proactively have been done all along the way for process improvement. And to coach that individual, to train other people, like a lot of benefits. And if that's important to you, again, if that's really one of your values, that should be happening throughout somebody's work experience, and not when they have an exciting opportunity outside your organization or even within the organization, right? We see that somebody gets promoted within an organization. It's like, okay, but before you leave, again, you have to hire your replacement, do your full-time job, wrap up all these projects, document every step that you take, right? It's just not reasonable to ask people to do that. So if that's important, you do it along the way.
And then some people may be like, deuces, I'm taking my PTO for my 2 weeks, so you won't see me again. Now you're really screwed as the organization, right? So, all right, so we covered the B. What do we have next here?
Yeah, so I follow an ABCDE process, and so I'll hit the highlights here. A for me is announce. Just commit to sharing with the organization in some way. In my organization, we're small enough, about 250 people, where we still have a Monday morning stand-up. It's a meeting for everybody in the organization Monday to just kind of get the week started off right. We celebrate wins. We look forward to the week ahead, any holidays coming up, any wins to celebrate, promotions, new hires, and we share anybody that's exiting the organization. And we share, hey, this person's leaving the organization. Here's when they're leaving. We appreciate what they've done. And we encourage people to stay in touch. And so just announcing, so often people are like, is that person doesn't work here anymore?
Right.
Or what happened to that person? So I like to control the story. We have an opportunity to control the story. We probably can't share all the details, especially if we've exited somebody, but we can show them enough respect to say, hey, this person is no longer going to be with the organization. Here's what we're going to do in the meantime to replace that person, or things like that. But at least the company is taking ownership of that change and sharing that with the organization. I already talked about B, balance. So rather than overloading people or ignoring them, we find that right balance and we work with them along the way. C is celebrate. And I like to do that in the announcement. So it's like, hey, this person helped us with this project. They were with us for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And there are situations where our company is small enough that somebody has graduated out of our company. We've seen some people that have reached the limit in our organization. We had an awesome attorney years ago. She was a corporate attorney and assistant, and she got a full corporate attorney job.
Nice.
It was a massive promotion for her that she couldn't have got in our organization because we already had a corporate attorney that was occupying that role. We couldn't have two.
Right.
She got an awesome opportunity outside, and we got permission with her to share that exciting announcement, and we celebrated that with her. The accomplishments during the time with us and where she's heading next, and we make it a celebration. So that's C.
I think that's amazing because it also speaks to the importance of all. A lot of times organizations only announce when that C-level is leaving. So to have everyone be announced in the show, like, hey, your contribution mattered. It also speaks to the people who are staying, so because they're like, oh, that means, they're talking about Jim and he was the janitor, right? That's cool, right? Because it shows that every single position is invaluable in this organization. And hey, if we don't offer what you feel like you need to the next phase of your career, we're still going to celebrate the fact that you've done everything to get to that point in your career. So I love that. I love it, Corey.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a big one. That resonates with a lot of people because, again, emotions can be really, really high when someone leaves an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And if they leave and they feel underappreciated or undervalued, or they were leaving, under this cloak of darkness and silence, nobody can know you're leaving, sort of thing. That's a lot of weight to carry. And when we just take that off and we just celebrate, we're happy what you did here. We're happy with wherever you go next. And and so I really lean into that when we announce that. The D is discover, and so this is your classic exit interview. I know a lot of people that are like, well, those are worthless because they're leaving, and I believe the exact opposite.
Anyone who says that they need to reevaluate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, part of the criticism is, well, you should be doing those all along. Sure, you can do stay interviews. It doesn't. Whether you're doing stay interviews or not, which I'm a big believer of,
Me too.
Whether you're doing those or not, there's still valuable information to be gathered from people exiting the organization. It has been my experience that people, after a reflective period of where they're going next in their career and what they've enjoyed about the work at this organization, what they haven't, are in a better place to be honest and open. And
Absolutely.
So making space for that moment sends the message that they matter. And it give you great information for an organization to take back and say, hey, this is something that they really enjoyed and loved. Let's double down on that. Or here's something that we didn't really understand was a big challenge or a frustration or something really confusing for them. Maybe let's figure out some ways that we can improve that for the people that are staying. So that D is discover. So we've got announce, we've got balance, we've got celebrate, we've got discover. And take those exit interviews seriously and give that feedback back to the supervisors and really thank them for the additional time to do it. I will say it is easier to do an exit interview when they're being paid for it. So
right. Yeah, don't call me when I'm gone already. Don't try to get me when I'm off payroll.
Yeah. So a little insider tip there. So if they've given you notice, make exit interview part of the balancing, of their workload. Like, hey, we do want to spend, 30 minutes together, really getting your feedback on these questions, be thinking about them. We want to make sure we do that before you exit the organization, formally. So let's make space for that.
So you've given a lot of great insight and tips already on how to kind of go about offboarding in a proper way. We talked about some of the benefits. I'm sure there are a lot more we can talk about. But some folks are probably saying, yeah, that's cool. I want to, make my offboarding process more robust, but I don't feel like I have the buy-in to do so. What would you say to those people?
Hopefully there's time for me to share a story at the end that sort of brings all of this back together to sort of celebrate that. I think a couple of things. One, if you are in that situation, I hope so far I have shared with you some really easy tips that you could do that may not need permission, like staying in touch with alumni of your organization, or reaching out when somebody gives notice and you hear about it and giving them recognition or celebrating or trying to learn where they're going and things like that. Or maybe you're a supervisor that has a big team and your team member is leaving. You should be able to, within your stewardship, still be able to have an exit interview with that individual. Now, in terms of more company-wide ideas, like maybe doing a more global announcement, things like that, or evaluating project work, things like that. That might be a little higher level. Then I think it's important to share with anybody that's in a decision-making position, to share with them the benefits. Like, hey, I think if we made some minor updates to how we think about offboarding, even the language we use, changing it to alumni, and we invest a little bit more in these places, we could start to get boomerang employees. We could get referrals. there's a lot of benefits we could get with a little bit of effort, and invite people to test. Whenever people are unsure, testing small is a big win. Would you mind if I tested? Could we test this? I have a hypothesis. Could we test doing these one or two minor things? I have a hypothesis that we will get better Glassdoor reviews. We might have people return to the organization. Would you mind if we did a test for 90 days? And those are some other key ways to just start trying some new things with people who may be reluctant at first.
Yeah, that test piece, that small little thing, just to show them what it was capable, and understanding how they best communicate. Maybe they need some facts behind it. Just being ready for that conversation is huge. So that was gold right there. So you mentioned a story. We have about 10 more, a little under 10 minutes remaining on our conversation, Corey. So tell us the story. What you got for us?
You got it. So I'll wrap up my ABCDE by just reminding people that earlier I said E is engage. And I make it a really important priority to consider our Guidant alumni network, reaching out and staying connected. And so to bring it all together, when I started my journey with Guidant Financial 6.5 years ago, I showed up. I was excited. I had a small team. And the afternoon of my first day, my only recruiter resigned. Day one.
Wow. Jeez. Talk about getting jumped into the fire. Huh?
Yep. So I thought I was going to have this one path to success when I arrived, and now that totally changed everything. Now I had to hire. Somebody, and so I had some strong emotions, as you can imagine, about that. Like, man, that's really, really hard. I chose to lean in, and I got to know that individual over the next 2 weeks. And we made plans together. We worked it out. We went to lunch. I really got to know this person. He got an awesome job back at a prior organization that he loved, in an industry he loved. And I was genuinely happy for him. And I really wanted him to know that. So I helped him leave the organization, I think, on a high note, because he'd worked for the company for about 6 months at that point, 4 to 6 months. I helped him feel good about what he did during that period of time, and stayed in touch with him afterwards. We promoted somebody from within, which was awesome. They lasted a year and then got promoted outside to an awesome job at Facebook. So I found myself a year in now, for the third time, having a new recruiter to come on board. Because I had kept in touch with that original recruiter that quit on my first day, they had interviewed somebody that they found was fantastic but didn't have room for them, referred them to me, been my recruiter, one of the best decisions I've ever made for the last 5.5 years.
Wow. Look at that. You treat people. That's why you don't mistreat anyone. You never know how those relationships are going to go.
So that person referred somebody back to me, said, I think this person is really going to fit with your personality, your style, with Guidant Financial's needs. And sure enough, been promoted several times, become a leader in the organization, been with us 5.5 years, and he is hiring 100 people a year. I mean, he is doing incredible things. Wow. The person that we promoted in between and then promoted to an awesome job at Facebook, a year or two later, she referred her sister to come work with us, still working with us, been here over 2 years, because I kept in touch with that individual and really celebrated her career journey and wins. And so from that one moment where I was tempted to be really frustrated, discouraged, disappointed, take it personally that they didn't want to work with me, those sort of things. Mm-hmm. I knew to lean into that relationship, and it just continues to pay. And I still am in touch with that individual who's doing great things, and it's creating more and more of this alumni network where we're benefiting each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And you applied some of your framework there as well, right? Because you engaged and you celebrated and you did all these things to help them feel like, okay, my decision was right. And you reached back out. You said, hey, I know you're not with us anymore, but you're still a part of this network. And, once Guidant Financial, always Guidant Financial. So how are you? And they were able to help make your job a little bit easier in the long run, right?
That's right. That's awesome. And so who knows how those relationships are going to pay off, but being kind and being grateful and being connected, is awesome. Even during moments where people might be leaving the organization, it's easy to feel, again, discouraged or disappointed or frustrated or take that personally. But my experience is, if you learn to celebrate with them and learn from them, and that it can be really, really fruitful. We, over the last 2 years, I think we've brought 5 people back to the organization that went and tried new things and realized they wanted to come back to Guidant Financial. Those boomerang employees, they integrate real fast
Yeah,
back into the
absolutely.
organization, to new roles. And like I said, and we have a waiting list. There are people that said, I want to come back, and here's the roles I'm looking for. And so there's a waiting list of people that are waiting to come back to Guidant Financial when the right role is available to them.
Well, with that being said, I mean, a waiting list. I mean, we got to hear about that book one more time. Where can we find it? And tell us how we can connect with you.
You bet. I always have it here with me, and I referenced it here. So the offboarding is the new onboarding. Is just one chapter of 40 in my book that's just packed full of what I think are easy, practical tips to help people just be their best selves. I believe that that the workplace is a place where we can be our best, do our best, and feel our best. And us as leaders and HR professionals and companies have a real obligation to help people to build that for people. And so the book is HR, You Kidding Me? It can be found on Amazon, and it's packed full of tips like this. So if you like content like this, that's easy and simple, and stories that are palatable that you could take to apply in your own world, or help other people in your organization understand how to test new things, book's packed full of those.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate you so much. And how can they connect with you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. I spend time there sharing content, but also celebrating wins. If we're connected and you get a promotion and stuff, I'll be there. I'll be there with you.
Awesome.
I'll celebrate. We'll connect. So feel free to connect with me, and I look forward to engaging there.
Well, thank you so much for dropping this knowledge, Corey, on how to make offboarding successful, and helping us to understand why it is just as important as onboarding, because onboarding gets all the shine. So we have to make sure, if we really want a culture of care and of high performance and all these things that we're talking about, it has to be from A to Z, all right, including offboarding when someone's no longer going to be with the organization. So appreciate that so much. And to all of those who are in attendance live, thank you for tuning in with us. To those who will be catching the replay, thank you for tuning in with us. We will see you soon. And remember to keep ascending.